Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Ash, the challenge in South Dakota in a lot of cases is one of trying to coordinate between the agency and individual farmers and ranchers that have contracts established for land ownership, or at least the availability for leases and so forth, and sometimes permanent leases on land. The relationship becomes strained on an occasional basis, and it's unfortunate, but part of it is because of the tactics that in many cases are being employed by law enforcement officers who are also doing their, what I believe is they're trying to do their best to make communications with landowners. But in this time in which we see across the country a concern about the interactions between law enforcement personnel and individuals of the public, let me just share with you a letter that we've got. This is, I'll take it, and I've tried to abbreviate a little bit, but I want to share with you some of the frustration that individual farmers and ranchers that have had leases for years with U.S. Fish and Wildlife and what they've shared with us. South Dakota landowner and farmers have allowed waterfowl production area easements with U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for years, and yet they believe that they've found in many cases a rather difficult and uncooperative approach in determining which acres are actually protected by the federal easements. In some cases, there's no map. It's simply an agreement that had been done perhaps back in the 1940s. Now, in the particular case that I'm going to share, the constituent related to us that he had a story of a Fish and Wildlife agent appearing in their front yard with a flak jacket and sidearms, intimidating them simply by his appearance and his tone. I'm particularly troubled that the taxpayer dollars are funding this type of truly an aggressive approach to citizens who are voluntarily and proactively enacting conservation measures on their own land as they have been doing for generations. How do I respond to them when they ask me why they are being made to feel as if they're lawbreakers, as if they are at risk, and as if rather than being a partner, they are being seen in almost an adversary type of role? It's just one example. I've got a lot of examples, literally relating back to the time in which I was governor. And in fact, I actually asked to have one of your officers removed from his post because of the interaction with local sportsmen in the central South Dakota area. But there seems to be a breakdown in terms of the attitude of who knows best, and whether or not it's simply a matter of if you're a federal officer, you seem to have the upper hand when it comes to the citizens that are literally paying the bill for the services, and in a lot of cases trying to cooperate in allowing for easements for waterfowl production areas. How do I respond?
Well, I don't know the specifics of the case, and so I would like to find those out, and I can come talk to you personally
Yes,
about
sir.
that, Senator. I would like to do that. I'll theorize here that
Okay.
if a law enforcement officer goes to a landowner in South Dakota, it would be because we have purchased an easement. So it would not be voluntary. So that would have been an easement that we have purchased and the taxpayer has paid for.
On a voluntary basis.
Sure, it was a voluntary transaction, but the taxpayer has an interest in that property because we paid for it, and so we do aerial surveys, and so they must have seen something on the ground that caused them concern, because we don't send a law enforcement officer unless they have observed what they believe to be an easement violation. Now, I would,
For an easement violation, you would send an armed officer in a flak jacket.
Not always, but I mean, our officers are like, if a Montgomery County police officer were to come to my home, they would have a sidearm and they would be wearing protective gear that sworn officers wear, and so I understand that can be intimidating to people. I do understand that, but
It's not a way to get more easements, that's for sure.
But I would say overall we have an extraordinarily positive relationship with landowners in South Dakota. We have hundreds of people waiting to have the Fish and Wildlife Service secure easements on their property because of the relationship that we have. So this could be an exception, and I would like to look at it and come talk to you
I'd
personally.
like that opportunity. My time has expired, but I would like an opportunity
Thank
to
you, Senator.
visit further.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
sir.